We need to talk about the election interference case in which Donald was found guilty of 34 felony counts, more commonly known and erroneously known as the hush money case. Watch this clip.
A New York judge has rejected President-elect Donald Trump's request to throw out his conviction in the criminal hush money case. Judge Juan Merchan said in a court filing Monday the Supreme Court's ruling giving presidents immunity from prosecution over official acts does not apply to this case. A jury convicted Trump in May on 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal hush money payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels in the lead up to the 2016 election. Trump's sentencing had been delayed while the judge considered the impact of the Supreme Court's ruling.
Okay, just for clarity, this is very important to me. Yes, he paid hush money in order to commit election interference. He was found guilty by a jury of his peers. He was supposed to be sentenced back in July, and I completely disagreed with Justice Merchan's decision to delay sentencing in order to take into the egregious Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't listening. So here we are after the election, and despite having been found guilty of those 34 felony counts, Donald still has not been sentenced, and maybe that might have made a difference, but of course, we'll never know. So Merchan wisely came to the conclusion that presidential immunity for official acts has absolutely nothing to do with state crimes Donald committed before he was in the Oval Office. So we're going to have to see how this plays out. But before we discuss the massive litigation-fueled tailspin that Donald was sent into by Merchan's ruling, please do me a favor. Take a second to like and share this video and subscribe to our channel and share our channel with other people you think might enjoy it. It's easy and it's free. Okay, so Donald's lawyers are now claiming, and again, this is months after the jury reached its verdict, that there was something wrong with the jury in the first place. It's December. This was back in the spring. Why now? Isn't this a sort of thing you bring up during the trial, during jury deliberations, or during the jury's decision-making process? I don't understand why it took so long, but I understand that this is something Donald always relies on. He's launching factually baseless attacks on Justice Merchan, and he was on Truth Social condemning the justice as being, quote, psychotic and, quote, corrupt after he rejected Donald's plea that the case should be thrown out on the basis of aforementioned Supreme Court ruling. Donald said this in full, quote, in a completely illegal psychotic order, the deeply conflicted, corrupt, biased, and incompetent acting justice Juan Merchan has completely disrespected the United States Supreme Court and his historic decision on immunity, only if you don't understand anything. Donald's angry post pointed at Merchan on Truth Social are not the only actions Donald has been taking against anybody who disagrees with him or tries to hold him to account. We already know that he sued ABC News and George Stephanopoulos for pretty much no reason, and despite not having done anything wrong, ABC, actually its parent company, Disney Corp, agreed to settle the case in Donald's favor, giving him $1 million for his legal fees and pledging $15 million to his fictional presidential library. They're also going to post some kind of apology. ABC's complete capitulation under a circumstance in which they had no reason to capitulate has opened the door for this next lawsuit, which is really quite egregious. On Sunday, Donald called for the investigation into pollster Ann Selzer of Iowa over a pre-election survey in which her data showed that Vice President Harris was leading in the deep red state of Iowa by 3 percentage points, 47% to 44%. Donald ultimately won the state by around 13 percentage points. Selzer got it really, really wrong, and she announced her departure from political polling. But Donald still wants to go after her. He described the poll as, quote, possible election fraud, and the now discredited newspaper for which she, meaning Selzer, works, an investigation is fully called for. So, yes, he's suing both the individual and Selzer and the Des Moines Register, which published the poll. At the time, he lashed out on November 1st, saying that the poll results were a cause for great distrust and uncertainty at a very critical time, unquote, and quote, she knew exactly what she was doing, unquote. Yeah, she was doing her job and she got it wrong. And it is impossible, I think, to prove that the poll swung anybody's mind. He won Iowa again by 13 percentage points, but that's not the point. The point is to create an atmosphere of fear, to have a chilling effect on anybody who, in any way, shape, or form, would publish any kind of material that Donald found negative. These attacks are just the beginning. They're essentially Donald's bread and butter, and he's going to continue to do what he's been doing for years, calling journalists enemies, calling the press the enemy of the people. He talks constantly about what, in his view, is retribution, but we can reasonably describe as retaliation against those he feels who have wronged him. And he has news executives nervous about what other actions he will take, again, if they step out of line. Perceived threats are numerous, lawsuits of every kind, efforts to unmask anonymous sources, physical danger, intimidation, attacks on public media, and libel protection, and day-to-day demonization. Donald has the full arsenal at his disposal. And on top of that, now he has proof that the threats of lawsuits work. Thanks, ABC. In his recent Mar-a-Lago press conference this week, Donald said, quote, we have to straighten out our press. Our press is very corrupt, almost as corrupt as our elections, unquote. I think it's worth pausing for a second and pointing out that he actually won this election. So I'm not entirely sure why he continues to say that all of our elections are corrupt, unless he's looking to undermine his own legitimacy, which would be perfectly fine with me. Of course, he's not just going out after journalists and judges. In more retaliation news, let's check in on what's happening with former Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
House Republicans are calling for former Congresswoman Liz Cheney to be investigated for her work on the January 6th Select Committee, which, of course, looked into Donald Trump and the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, 2021. Now, this could potentially lay the groundwork for Cheney to face criminal prosecution. In a statement, Cheney criticized the report, calling it a malicious and cowardly assault on the truth, adding that no reputable lawyer, legislator, or judge would take this seriously. Donald Trump weighed in, posting about the report on social media at 3:30 this morning, just a couple hours ago. He wrote this: Cheney could be in a lot of trouble, while Trump went on to thank Congressman Loudermilk for, quote, a job well done.
Representative Barry Loudermilk of Georgia, Republican, of course, actually is an insurrectionist. Right before January 6th, on January 5th, he gave an unofficial pre-insurrection tour to unnamed people of the U.S. Capitol, and not just the kinds of places in the Capitol tourists typically visit, but back hallways, back stairways. I mean, it was really bizarre. Those who joined him for the Capitol Complex tour photographed and recorded places, again, not typically visited by your typical tourist. Security checkpoints were also a hallmark of Loudermilk's tour, according to materials that were released by the January 6th Select Committee. This is just another reminder of the egregious failures of Merrick Garland and his Department of Justice to hold to account those who did attack our Capitol and aided and abetted others who attacked our Capitol on January 6, 2021. How is this fair, and what can be done about it? Well, it's not fair, and that's also the point. It's just to drive us crazy and remind us that we do not have the power here. This is a tactic that Donald has used going back decades now. He uses his extreme wealth to wait out his opponents and outspend them until they have to give up and settle for pennies on the dollar. Or they just get so demoralized and their lives get so disrupted that they give up, giving him the win. So there are still a few things we can do. First of all, recognize the reality of the situation we're living in, refuse to capitulate like ABC did. And somebody came up with a really good idea. I don't know if this is actually in the works yet, but it makes a lot of sense. Really, really wealthy people who care about justice need to set up a fund for all of those who will be wrongly pursued by Donald in the courts, whether civilly or criminally. That way, people can fight back without worrying that their lives, professional, financial, will be destroyed when the leader of the free world goes after them. We know that it is extraordinarily difficult for individuals to stand up to the kind of extreme wealth and power people like Donald wield so recklessly. E. Jean Carroll was successful in part, yes, because she's an extraordinarily brave woman who was willing to face down her adjudicated rapist, but also because she had attorneys and a law firm who were willing to do the work pro bono. Not everybody is so fortunate. When my first book, Too Much and Never Enough, came out in July of 2020, or I should say before my book came out, Donald sued me to prevent the publication of that book. I would not have been able to defend myself against that onslaught if I also hadn't had extraordinarily talented and generous attorneys willing to do that work pro bono in the interest of the First Amendment. So the fund's a great idea, and also just understanding the tactic here. It's the absurdity. It's to keep us all disheartened and annoyed and frustrated and angry. Let's look past it and hang this stuff around Donald's neck so he looks like the whiny, immature, tantrum throwing baby he continues to prove himself to be. Hey, everybody. In case you weren't aware, I am spectacularly bad at self-promotion. So here goes. Please subscribe to our channel and like and share our videos. Your support means so much to all of us. Thank you.